Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's episode of Rich Nigerian Mentor. Today we'll be talking about strategies on how you can get out of any hopeless situation. Well, let me start by sharing a short story with you. A few months back, one of my brothers had a slight accident, or we thought it was a slight accident. Somebody hit him on one of his eyes, and the eyes became inflamed. And over the course of 6 months, the eyes went from bad to worse. Not only that, he was having some serious family challenges, and because of that, his business was almost crumbling or had crumbled. But something peculiar was happening to that eye. Every day, the eye was getting worse. It got so bad that he went to 3 consultants, 3 ophthalmologists, consultant ophthalmologists, and they all told him that the eye was beyond remedy. In fact, they told him that the cornea has collapsed and there was nothing they could do about it. One of them even referred him to a specialist consultant surgeon in Lagos. And he decided to come to Lagos to meet this consultant's eye surgeon. But before then, one day I went to see him, and the pain from the eye was so bad that he was placed on moderate opioid to reduce the headache and the pain he was having from that eye. The tears was running constantly, non-stop from the eye. One of the doctors even placed an eye patch on the eye so that to know if the eye will heal. But when the eye pad was removed, the eye had almost rotten. Now, he was in a hopeless situation. Not only was his business crumbling, his family was crumbling, he was having challenges with his wife, and his eye was in a very horrible situation. So that day he came to Lagos and he came to my house. And when I looked at his eyes, I sat him down and we started to talk to him. I started to share with him strategies that I felt could get him out of his situation. I started to share with him strategies that I felt will elevate him from where he was and put him to a better pedestal. Because some of these strategies had worked for me. And when I worked with him, this happened about 30 days ago. And within 30 days, let's even talk while we was there. When he came, I started to share with him. I started to point out to him simple, or would I say secrets from the Bible that I felt could change his life. I started to talk to him about the blind man in the Bible. How if there was a time that God had used some strict principles to heal somebody in the Bible to transform an eye, that his eye could be healed. I asked him to start to search for principles in the Bible, because I've discovered from my experience and walk with God that there's a way that God works. I discovered that God has a way of pointing out things to you. He has a way of showing you things that you never knew existed. And if you could hold on to those things, your life will be transformed. Now, when he went to see that, he came to my house on a Thursday, and he drove straight to the hospital to see the doctor, who told him that there was no hope for the eye. Now, we started this discussion over and talking about ways of getting out of his problem. I started sharing with him, giving him hopes. I started discussing strategies with him. And by the next 5 days, when he went to see the same consultant surgeon, the lady told him, "Young man, I don't know what is happening, but the eye seems to be clearing. The eye that was inflamed is now white, and the cornea that I thought was ruptured I can see some of the corneas in your eye." And he called me that day from the hospital and was very excited. But amazingly, 2 days ago, the young man called me and he shared a marvelous story with me. Not only had his business started to improve, not only is his family getting back in place, but that eye that was described as rotten by doctors has almost killed itself. The eye that he couldn't see anything with, now he can see with that eye. The dark spots on the eye has totally disappeared. He called me to tell me that he has gone for Thanksgiving because he couldn't believe the miracle that God had done for him. Now, there's something I want you to understand. Yes, God worked miracles, but he is a God of principles. And the things I want to share with you today are principles that will change your life. Principles that I saw after analyzing the case of this brother of mine. I saw principles that work with him, and I believe that these are principles that can also work with you if you put them into practice. Some of you might be passing through some business collapse. You can't see any way of getting out of your present financial predicament. You are almost in a hopeless situation. Some of you might also be facing some serious medical challenges. I want to walk you through some series of steps, which as your mentor, if you can listen to me and take them one step at a time, you will not only get out of your situation, but you'll start to get double portion, because that is the amazing thing I realized with this brother of mine. Not only did he get out of his problem, but opportunities, doors started to open up to him because of this principle that he was practicing. And if you too can start to practice this principle, you too can start to get out of any hopeless situation you are in, no matter what that situation is. So, let's see the rule. The first principle of getting out of any hopeless situation is you need to believe that you don't need anybody to succeed. You need to believe that your destiny is not in the hand of anybody. What I made my brother realize was that, see, going to people to ask for people to pray for me, going to people to say, do this for me, won't solve your problem. You need to believe on your own that your destiny is in your hand, that God has put everything you need to succeed inside of you. That all you need to do is for you to now reach out inside of you and find that solution inside of you. You don't need for anybody to pray for you. You can find the secret to your own health inside of you. A lot of people are in bondage because they are looking for somebody to pray for them. They are looking for somebody to help them out of their present challenges. But I tell you that the moment you break that mental barrier, the moment you tell yourself, I can on my own get out of this, you have crossed a major hurdle in overcoming that helpless situation. A lot of you are in the situations you are because you believe that somebody needs to come to your aid. A lot of you are in the situation that you are in now because you believe that something needs to work for you to get out of your situation. But I tell you that the only thing that needs to change is the focus you have. The moment you take your focus out of somebody and place it on yourself and believe that inside of you lies the secret and the gift to get out of any situation you are in, then you have overcome the first major barrier out of any hopeless situation. The man who can believe himself, it will take a huge mountain to take him down. And as long as he believes himself, even if he's down, he will keep on rising. The great Henry Ford, who started Henry Ford Motors, I heard one of his quotations. He said if you take all the wealth he has, that give him 5 years, he'll rebuild that wealth. Which means he believes so much himself that he doesn't need anybody to build a financial fortune, no matter how much he goes down, no matter how hopeless his situation is. And I believe that was what Jesus was saying when he said, destroy this temple and in 3 days' time I will build it back. He did not say in 3 days' time I'll call people to build it back. In 3 days' time I will build it back. Which means he was not looking on the outside to get out of his problems. Now, the next principle is you need to believe and understand that nobody owes you anything. Your parents don't owe you anything in life. Your family don't owe you anything in life. Your friends don't owe you anything in life. As I was preparing for this program, a young man called me and said that he was trying to do some programs and he asked somebody to lend him 20,000 naira and the person refused. That ordinary 20,000 naira, that this man refused to lend it to him. I made this young man realize that nobody owes him anything. A lot of us are refusing to rise up our situation because we feel that people owe us something. Yes, this man refused to help me. Yes, this woman refused to do this for me. Oh, I would have been here if not that my brother refused to give me the money that I needed to realize. You need to realize that nobody owes you anything. The only thing your parents owe you is for them to give birth to you. The only thing this environment owes you is to give you a place to stand and to give you a life. Once you have these two things, nothing else is owed to you. Every other thing are privileges that people give to you. And privileges are not what you hold on to. What you can demand for are your rights. And the only right you have is the right to life. And the right to existence. Every other thing are privileges. And when you start to see things around you as privileges, you don't want to hold on to tightly onto them or start to blame them for anything that's happening unto you. Hopelessness are a result of people holding on to privileges and calling them right. If you can stop seeing privileges as right and start to see them as privileges, which means if they come, fine. If they don't come, you still go ahead with your life. I can tell you that you can break any mental barrier. You can get out of any hopeless situation because you are not holding anybody responsible for whatever happening to you. I think one of the worst things that happens to Africans is the belief that our environment is responsible for a lot of things happening to us. You find people going to say, oh, I'm not succeeding in life because a curse was placed on my family. No, until a prayer is organized, that is when we can get out. It's meaning that it's saying that your family owes you the responsibility to come together and organize a praying session for you to get out of your situation. That is a barrier to you. You need to break that barrier and tell yourself that nobody owes me anything. Nobody needs to gather together for me to help me get out of any situation. The moment you do that, you have overcome the second major challenge that keeps people in hopeless situations. Now, see the dangerous part. The next principle is a very dangerous one and has been keeping a lot of people in bondage. Now, I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility because a lot of Africans have been caught into the trap of hopelessness because of this bondage without even knowing that it's a bondage. And I call it religious escapism. What do I mean by this? You find somebody, he's facing some challenges. On Sunday, he's in church. On Monday, he's at a retreat. On Tuesday, he's at another prayer and fasting session. On Wednesday, he's meeting another prayer warrior. On Thursday, he's going for vigil. On Friday, which means from Sunday to Saturday, he's at one religious function or the other. He's saying he's looking for solution, but ask yourself, what is this person doing? He's trying to escape from reality. The moment you start running from one religious event to the other, then you are in what I call religious escapism. You are trying to escape from the realities of life and hide yourself like an ostrich in the religious activities. An ostrich, when he's faced by dangers, hides his head in the sand and pretend that the realities are not there. The moment you start to hide your head in religious activity, then it will be extremely difficult for you to get out of your hopeless situation. I can tell you that the moment you start to run from one religious activity to the other, your problem will remain there. Religiosity will not get you out of your hopeless situation. If you are sick, moving from one church program to the other will not heal you. If your business is crumbling, jumping from one religious activity to the other will not help you. I see people who are having financial challenges, their businesses are going down, and where do you find them? You find them in churches. You find them in religious events. And why do they do that? Because they feel that, oh, this is where we can get out of our challenges. This is where we can find help. And I ask you, is it in those churches or in those religious events that the inspiration that will transform your business will come? Is it not by you sitting in your business that you get ideas that can get you out of that? A lot of people have so hidden themselves, their head in the sand of religious activity, and their hopeless situation is getting from bad to worse. See, no matter the amount of religious activities you hide yourself in, it will not change the situation you are in. I'm not asking you to give up going to church. I'm not asking you to give up praying. But even the Bible tells us that there's time for everything. There's a time for praying and there's a time for walking. There's a time for meditation and there's a time for consulting. Don't always carry your problem and hide it in the sand of religious activity. Hopelessness will remain until you look up and say, okay, I've prayed, what next? If you remember when David came back went to fight for the Philistine, and they said, no, we don't want David and his men to fight for us. When they went back, they realized that their camp had been ransacked by the Amalekites. Now they said his people started to weep from morning till night. But you notice something. As they were weeping, nothing happened. The only thing that came to their mind was for them to stone David. But in the Bible, it said that David strengthened himself, and the next thing was, he asked, what is the next thing to do? Burying yourself in religious activity will not get you out of your hopeless situation. You must rise up and say, okay, what is the next line of action? What is the next plan? Where do I start now? So avoid religious escapism. See the next principle, which I think was very key in helping my brother get out of his health situation and financial situation. I made him realize that he should search for the solution to his problem by himself. What I asked him to do was, I'll bring up the Bible and ask him, okay, read one chapter. After I ask him, explain what you found inside this thing to me. He will say, okay, the Bible is telling us that. I said, no. What is it telling you? I made him realize that on his own, he can read the Bible, listen to talks, and from there find solution to his problem by himself. And he started to do this. Amazingly, this young man started to find inspiration. Even when he went back to his base, he would call me and say, I was reading the Bible and this inspiration jumped out at me. I was listening to a message and this idea suddenly came out. See, your success does not depend on anybody. And it's until you start to behave like the Berea Christian. What did they do? They say whenever they were taught something, they went on their own to search if it was true. Go on your own by yourself to search if whatever you are looking for is true. Do not depend on people to pray for you. Do not depend on people to help you out. On your own, search for the solution to your own problem. And I'll share something with you about searching for problem. You discover that when you start to search, okay, let me give you an example of what happened yesterday. I was searching for a particular item on the internet. I searched for this item from yesterday night, throughout the night, up till my internet stopped working by 9 a.m. I searched, but it was at 8:57 a.m. this morning that suddenly I hit on what I've been looking for more than 8 hours. I could do that because I knew that there was an answer and I decided to look for it by myself. But the other thing that happened was that as I was looking for this thing, I was coming into other ideas and finding things that I would not have found out if I had asked somebody to, hey, how do I do this? But because I was searching for myself, I discovered things that, though they were not the main thing I was looking for, but they helped me in growing, becoming a better person. When you start to search for things by yourself, you become a better person. You achieve more in life and you grow faster in life. Another key principle in getting out of any hopeless situation is seek for peace. What do I mean by seek for peace? You need, when Jesus came to his people, what did he tell them? My peace I give you. See, my brother, my sister, you can't get out of any hopeless situation if you don't have peace on the inside of you. You need to find the peace inside of you. You need to ask your soul, your spirit to relax. Let everything that you are facing, put it aside and start on your own to say, what are those things? Let everything just see every other thing as vanity. Put them aside and focus and start to say, without peace, your problem cannot get better. Without telling yourself, no matter what is happening on my outside, I will find my peace. Imagine Jesus. Jesus was in the middle of a storm, in a boat in the middle of a storm, and he was sleeping. If you cannot sleep in the middle of your storm, your soul cannot sleep and find rest in the middle of that storm you are passing through, I can tell you it will be almost impossible for you to get out of that difficult challenges that you are facing through. So start now to build that peace inside you. Tell yourself that the storm is happening outside. Tell yourself that in the middle of a storm that Jesus is sleeping. So even in that storm happening around you, that you too can sleep. You realize that in the middle of the ocean wave, that birds, that fish are still in that ocean, swimming and passing through it. The moment you can start to also look at what you are passing through, the moment you can start to look at whatever you are doing and find peace in it, at that moment you have started to grow your life, you have started to improve in whatever you are doing. Now, the next part I want you to also do is, you must start on your own to look at those people you feel owe you a lot and start to seek to forgive people. You must start to look at people who you feel owe you a lot and you start to tell yourself, okay, for these people, I'm forgiving them. I can tell you that without you forgiving those who you feel have hurt you, it will be difficult for you to move ahead. All those people that you feel that disappointed you in life, all those people you feel that should have helped you, if you can't find it in your heart to forgive them, I can tell you that just like the Bible says, your Heavenly Father too will not forgive you. And if God doesn't forgive you, how do you hope to prosper? I was watching an amazing film called Amish Grace. A-M-I-S-H Grace, which I recommend that you watch. It was about a man who suddenly, he lost his child, and he felt that he was angry at God. And he went to the Amish community and decided to massacre about close to 10 of their children in a school. But the amazing thing that happened was that the fathers and mothers of these children, when after he did that, he also killed himself. But the fathers and mothers of these children went to this man's wife, the wife of the man who murders their children, and told him that we are forgiving your husband. If you need any help, if you need any assistance in your time of grief, come to us, we'll help you out. If there's anything we can do, come to us, we'll help you. Now, people could not understand such kind of attitude. Even the news agencies were saying, no, there must be something behind this. How can somebody kill your daughter? So a lady lost 2 daughters. And how can you forgive that person who killed your daughter? Not only did you forgive him, but you are also reaching out to help that person. One of the elders of the Amish community said something which I think is key. See, he said unforgiveness is for the forgiver. That when you start to forgive somebody, you are healing your soul. And the moment you are forgiving somebody, you are releasing yourself for you to live. If you are holding unforgiveness in your heart, it's not affecting the other person, whoever you felt hurt you. But the moment you forgive that person, you free your spirit for it to soar and be able to do other things. But the moment that unforgiveness is there, it's boiling inside you, it's taking your mind away from things that you would have done to move your progress in life. The moment you look at any person who has hurt you or any situation, and you say, I forgive this person, not only situation, even at yourself, say, okay, I forgive myself for making any mistake in life, in the past. This mess that I am in, yes, I got myself into it, but I forgive myself for getting into it. The moment you can start to do that and say that, and inside of you believe that, I can tell you that a major hurdle towards getting out of your hopeless situation has been crossed. Look at the disease that you are facing. What does disease mean? Disease is a combination of 2 words, dis and ease, meaning not being at ease. Not being at ease means that as long as you are not having an ease inside of you, as long as unconfidence is making you uncomfortable inside, disease will start to build and grow inside you. A lot of people who have cancers have been found out that it's because of some hatred. I'm not saying everybody, I say some people, it's because from hatred and some spirit of unforgiveness of inside of them, that the more they meditate upon that hurting situation, the more they became uneasy, and that resulted in sicknesses inside of them. Now, For you, the next way to get out of hopeless situation is you must believe that there's a solution to that problem. I can tell you that no matter the problem you are looking at, no matter how hopeless that situation may be, there is a solution to it. Now, let me give you this particular example. One day, I went for a program and a young girl suddenly, about 3 years old, had an asthmatic attack and when I say she collapsed, she wasn't breathing. And looking at that situation was almost a hopeless situation. Now, what instantly came to my mind was, I remember the issue of the young man that fell out of the issue of Isaiah, Elisha, how he would lie down on the dead, the dead son of a woman that helped him. He lied down and breathed into her. And what I did was, I also remember the story of how a young man said he saw another person suddenly died and he was breathing into him. And what I did was, I took this young girl, placed her on the bed, and I started to meditate upon what the story of Elisha raising a dead boy, the story of Jesus raising the dead, the daughter of Jairus, and also this story of this young man who breathed into another young man and hero. And all I was doing was, as at that moment, putting my mouth in the mouth of that little baby, breathing into her mouth and pressing her stomach, and all I was thinking about was that if this thing happened to the past, that this young girl can also come to life. Amazingly, for some reason, suddenly the baby started to cough, and before you know it, this young baby rose up and came back to life. I can tell you that for any situation you have, once you can believe on the inside of you that there's a hope, that this situation is not hopeless, you can believe that there's a solution to this problem, I can tell you that you find a solution to it. A lot of times in my life, I found situations that seem hopeless, but the moment I believe that there's a solution to this problem, and I started to search for that solution, somehow it might take some hours, it might take days or weeks, but one day out of nowhere, I'll just stumble on that solution and that problem is gone. But a lot of people who are facing that same solution, because they believe that their solution is hopeless, suddenly they can't on their own get out of it, because, well, if something is hopeless, what can you do? So you need to believe that, look at that situation, even if it's cancer, my brother, I can tell you that once you believe that there's a solution, on the inside of you, you believe somewhere there is a solution to that, you too can overcome that cancerous situation. If you are in debt and you believe that there's a solution for getting out of debt, and you start to search for those solutions, you too can get out of debt. The next thing you also need to do in any hopeless situation is look for a reference point. If it has been done before, then it means it can be done again. If you have your business has collapsed, and you can research and find out somebody whose business collapsed and the person got out of it, you have a reference point that you can say, yes, this person has done it before, I can do it too. If your family is collapsing and you can find a reference point of somebody whose family has collapsed and he could get it back together, you can say, yes, this person has done it before, then I can get to do it too. All you need is it has been done before, so it can be done again. Once you can get a reference point to anything, you have a strong hope for getting out of any key hopeless situation you are in. No matter the situation, no matter how bad it is, if you can just search for and get a reference point that you can say, it has been done before, so it can be done again. Like just more like when you are praying, you say, Jesus is the same yesterday, today, tomorrow. Which means if there's a miracle he has done before, then he can do it today, then he can do it at any particular point in the future. Reference points are very critical to getting out of any situation. It's more like a young boy trying to learn how to ride a bicycle. If you're on his own, he picks a bicycle and tries to ride and he falls. He will get up again and start to ride and go back climb onto that bicycle again. Why? Because he has seen his friends riding bicycles before. He has seen people he has seen younger people younger than him riding bicycle. I've seen people fall out of bicycle and get up and start to ride again. That is a reference point for that little boy or that little girl. So you know that if they have done it before, this thing is not an impossible task. I too can do it. But once there's no reference point in your life, in that situation that you can hold on to get out of that challenge you are passing through, it will be extremely difficult for you to get out of it. So it's very, very critical for you to get reference points. Like I said in the case of my brother, what I did for him was I started to show him reference points, show him people whose health were so bad and how they got out of it. I showed him example of cases in the Bible that eyes that had been lost before and how they were recovered. I showed him examples of people whose situation were almost hopeless and how they got out of it. That gave him reference points. With reference points, you can overcome anything because reference point tell you that this has been done before, so there's a way to get out of it. The moment you can get a reference point and hold on to it, you'll be amazed at how easy it will be for you to overcome any challenge that you are passing through. The next point I want to make is stop talking about your hopeless situation. This is very, very critical. Stop talking about it and stop thinking about that hopeless situation. You might think, what's this young man talking about? I can tell you that. Just imagine you are in a bus and you are feeling pressed. And you're telling everybody, drive, I'm feeling pressed, or I need to go to the toilet, I need to ease myself. Now imagine in that situation, suddenly you hear gunshots, and suddenly you feel, you think they're armed robber, everybody jumping out of the bus. I can tell you that because your mind moved out of that, you stop talking about and thinking about, at that moment you stop thinking about your bowel needs, you are thinking about safety. Suddenly you find that your system shuts down, and that pressing need to go to the toilet will shut down. And because you have stopped thinking about it, you just, after you've found out maybe it was not an armed robbery, it was just a vehicle backfiring, is when you now start to think about it, that feeling of need to go to the toilet will come back again. The moment you stop talking about your situation, that is when you start to see that event will kind of disappear. I learned this thing critically from some men of God like Chris Oyakhilome, Bishop Oyedepo. You notice something, especially with Chris Oyakhilome. Look at those times the gossip and rumors have come up about him. You will never ever hear him say anything about them. And suddenly, because he's not saying anything about it, before you know it, those things will disappear. But for those people who start to fight back, you find out that because people are throwing, I say, you say, those things stay longer in the public domain. It also happens to your situation. The more you talk about it, the more you tell people about it, that is the more it will start to reinforce itself in your life. God says that whatever I hear them say, that's what I will do. So the more you're talking about that hopeless situation, that's the more you are getting worse into it. For any time you are not thinking of the solution to that problem, don't think about it. The only time you can talk about it is when you want to talk about to somebody, either you want to use it to encourage somebody, or you want to discuss with somebody for it, somebody to provide solution for you. But if you are talking about it just for you to get some emotional relief, keep your mouth shut. Don't even think about it. What this means is that for every day, you need to deliberately set out the things you want to think about. Because if you don't set out the things you want to think about, your mind will gradually gravitate towards those things. And before you know it, you start to think about them again. But if you say, okay, today I'm going to think about how I love my wife, I'm going to think about how I'm going to build my future, I'm going to think about, I'm going to meditate on 3 Bible verses. If you have set up a definite plan of what to meditate upon, suddenly your problem on its own will start to disappear. Ask anybody.